What if I told you there's a tool out there that lets you automatically schedule and plan your tasks for your team? You'll be able to see your team's workload in a glimpse without having to do much in this tool. It's called ClickUp, and nowadays, thanks to AI agents, it's able to assign, estimate, and plan tasks for you. You don't have to do anything as long as you give it the good set of rules. And I'm going to show you in this video completely how to create your own workload planning AI agents. Now, if you don't know me, for context, my name is Ramzi and I founded Upsys. We're an agency that helps agencies deliver faster, and we also support service businesses into creating solid workflows in ClickUp, creating automations in and out of ClickUp, and nowadays agents, so that your team works faster together and saves hours every week. You're ready for this full tour of ClickUp agents for workload planning? Let's go. I've created a method called the batch method. I've talked about it in several videos and I've always refined it and improved it over time. And nowadays I'm using ClickUp AI agents for it to plan the batches for me. The idea of the batch method is that it's a middle ground between a very complex sprint planning and agile methodology and just a waterfall methodology where you have no real vision on what's to tackle in each sprint, in each batch of a week, for example. The idea is to have a lightweight drop-down that will let you plan your tasks in batches of this week, next week, later, and so on and so forth. And to do so, you're going to rely on a very simple rule. You're going to plan your tasks on Fridays. And the idea is that if you say it's to do now, it means to do from Monday to Friday next week. Next is the week after, later is later in 3 weeks. So you're going to be able to have a clear view on who has to do what in the next 4 weeks. And if you estimate and assign your tasks correctly, you'll end up going from a view like this, where you have no idea who has to do what over the next weeks, to a much clearer workload view like this one, where you know exactly who has to tackle what each week, and you're able to drag and drop tasks, change your estimates, and just manage your team's capacity in a glimpse by just reassigning tasks from a person to another so that you balance out their workload. So the idea is pretty simple. We're going to go into our web design space and assume we're a web design agency that has a few set of rules. They're all written in our wiki, and we have these 3 rules here. So we basically have task assignment rules. We know who has to do what on each task. So you know who has to take care of client documentation, who has to do visual research, full website development, collaborating on the project, and so on and so forth. So we basically have rules for each of our team members. And that's actually what we do at Upsys. We get to understand your team and create this kind of documentation in your workspace so that you can use it for agents later down the line. It's super useful to have your documentation and SOPs in ClickUp, because not only can you use it for humans, but nowadays you can use it for agents, and you can let agents read those SOPs and follow those rules. Once you've set up those rules for assignees, you have to take care of the second step. And if you remember my diagram, it's the planning, the batching. We need to know who does what, when. And the idea is pretty simple. So the rules are out here and the documentation is here, but we're going to turn this into a prompt that we're going to put in an AI agent so that tasks are planned automatically within ClickUp. And last thing we're going to do is estimate. So we have a rule of thumb here about estimates. And I like to keep it very, very simple with estimates. A lot of clients that come to me tell me, hey, Ramzi, we want to estimate tasks, but we have no idea how to use ClickUp, always lacking accuracy. And I tell them the problem is you're trying to be accurate. The reality is you need to be complete. It's better that your accuracy is 60, 70%, but all your tasks have estimates. And the solution to do so is to let an AI do it and to give it very simple rules. And the rules I like to set is points. So I like to say, if your task is 2 hours, is 1 point, half a day is 2 points, and a full day is 3 points. And just by doing so, you know that a person can manage at most 15 points a week, because that means 5 full days. 3 times 5, 15. So 15 points a week is your team's capacity per person. Now, obviously, if you have part-timers, freelancers, you need to adjust that in ClickUp, but that is a useful rule of thumb that I'm using in agents, and I'm going to show you how to. So this is a tour of our 3 agents, and we need this for the workload to be done. We need assignees, start dates, due dates, and estimates. It's actually going to be 3 different agents, one for each role. And we're going to start with the points estimate agent. Difference between this agent and the others is that this one uses a dropdown. And now we're going to go to an actual project. I'm going to show you how that looks. We are in an ongoing space here with a bunch of clients, and we have a bunch of steps like the documentation, organizing the media, visual research, and stuff. So we can see we have sub-steps here, like collaborating on content and a bunch of instructions and SOPs that we have here. But the idea is that all of these tasks could be planned with a start date and a due date, assigning tasks, knowing who has to do what, leaving a comment and stuff. We could do that manually, but imagine the amount of effort this would require, because we would need to do that on every single subtask. And we could just, with a single drop-down click, have that done. And before I show you that, I'm going to start off with estimating our tasks. So ClickUp offers custom fields, and some of them are AI compatible, which means you can let AI fill them with a single prompt. And if I were to right-click on this one that I created earlier and go to Edit Field, you can see there's a little purple icon here. And that means ClickUp Brain is taking care of it and filling the tasks with AI. And the rules that I've told you about earlier are in here, basically telling them to fill in the task in an optimistic way and saying that if it's more or less 2 hours, 1 point, 4 hours, 2 points, 8 hours, 3 points, and stuff. I'm giving an example and context with task name and description, and just doing this is enough information for ClickUp to fill the task without me having to lift a finger. Maybe I have to lift one finger and click, but that is it. I make a single click on the AI generation, and the AI generation will estimate project documentation takes 2 points, so about 4 hours, which is more or less accurate, I guess. And then we can do this manually, field by field, or we can just click here at the top of the column and generate the estimates for all our tasks at once. And you can also automate this. By the way, you could let AI generate estimates at task addition or creation, but just know that each time you run that, you consume a credit. And obviously doing all of this requires you to have a business plan for workload planning and AI enabled in your ClickUp workspace so that you can leverage all of these features. I'm going to generate all of those points thanks to AI. And as you can see, it's just filling the columns for me without me having to do anything. The patterns are quite similar. Now, obviously, if I wanted, I can always say, oh, hey, project documentation is actually 1 point. And I can update my prompt and say, hey, be careful for documentation. We only take 2 hours because we have processes or things like that, so that it knows better and so that it improves its own rules. Now, that's it for our first agent, and that's the only one that we're going to control here from the dropdown and from the custom field. 2 next agents are going to be the batch agent and the assignee agent. Let's start by the task assignment agents. So we have these rules here, and we want our agent to assign the tasks based on those rules, right? And as a trigger, I'm going to choose picking our batch custom field. So I'm going to get back here. I'm going to display the batch, which is a drop down that I've told you about earlier that sets now, next, later, Sunday, maybe, and stuff. Let's get back here and launch our agents. So I'm going to go here on the top right. I'm going to click on agents, autopilot agents, and create a new agent. What I'm going to say is each time our custom field batch is set to a value, then let's just analyze each task or subtask, take into account the title, checklist, and content, apply the following rules to determine the ideal assignee, only change the assignee. And then I'm going to add context. So I've talked about this earlier in a bunch of videos, the KIT framework. So for your agents to work, it needs knowledge, instructions, and tools. And that means you need instructions, which I've just put, knowledge, which is context, which is more information about your business, your company, your constraints, what they need to know to perform better, and tools is what you allow them to do. So I've added instructions. Next, I'm going to add knowledge in here, and I'm going to mention a doc. It's going to be my task assignment SOP. It's going to be the document where I say who does what in my company. And then I'm going to add a tool. So I'm going to say you're able only to manage tasks and subtasks. And that's all you can do. You cannot search the web, you cannot generate an image, you can only manage tasks and subtasks. By the way, I'm going to talk about image generation, web search, and new agents coming up in the next videos. So obviously subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. I will definitely talk about agents extensively in the next year because I think 2026 is going to be all about task agents in ClickUp. and in project management and workflow management in general. We've set our agent, we've given it a tool so it can access one thing, which is managing tasks and subtasks, and we can create and save it. I'm just going to rename it in a friendly name, assignment agent. So create and save, and we have our agent ready, and we are ready to move on to the next one, which is going to be batch scheduling. The batch scheduling agent is basically about planning those tasks in those slots of next, later, and stuff, right? So the prompt is going to be like so. AI agents checks the custom field based on the value of the batch custom field. It sets the start date and due date to week +1, week +2, week +3, week +4. And here we go. I'm going to cut the prompt here and I'm going to paste it in a new agent. So the trigger is going to be the same. Trigger is going to be when a custom field changes to a batch. Then please set the planning agent, which we can already name, by the way, planning agent. So that means each time the batch changes, it's going to read the batch and it's going to set the start date and due date of my tasks. All I have to do for this one is, instead of adding knowledge, is add tools. Doesn't need any more knowledge than what it has in the instructions. We're going to allow it to manage tasks and subtasks and click create and save. And here we go. We have our 2 extra agents. So it took us about 5 to 10 minutes. We have our agents ready. And now we have automated project planning. I'm going to show you that's pretty insane. So we have our batch custom field, our points, and we're pretty much laid out on our whole web design project. And now what we can do is start batching our tasks. So what I'm going to do is assume that we're handling all of these clients' websites first and maybe spread them over 2 weeks. So I'm going to say, maybe this is to do now, this is to do now, and this is to do now. I'm actually going to bring that one here. And you're going to see it's going to magically set the start dates, the due dates, and the assignee of those tasks. So let's continue. As you can see, as I'm going, it's setting the start date, it's setting the due date, and it's also knowing exactly who has to work on what. Because if I put visual research here, it's going to be Lucas as well, because it knows from the document we have here earlier on in the web design wiki that for research and website development, it's Lucas. So those rules of who does what, they are filled out by our agents. And you can do that on any workspace and any trigger. The agent will work and run itself. Obviously, you can have that done manually, but you can also decide to create a template and to pre-frame your project in batches of weeks, for example. And as soon as you fire a new project, say you're starting a new project from a task template, you can have that taken care of by the agent. They will take care of assigning the tasks, setting the start dates, setting the due dates for you, and you will not have to do a thing but to watch at your workload view that we'll see later. And if you're interested about that, just book a discovery call with us at Upsys. We'll see how we can help you out, create consistent workflows across your teams, create templates, create agent rules that are tailored to your business, and make sure that you're leveraging ClickUp to its full potential to work faster and more efficiently together and save time. But I think you got the gist of it. You set a trigger, you set a bunch of AI rules, you have to make sure your prompt is clear, and you give it some context and knowledge, and it's able to do task management, task planning for you. So I'm starting to set all these projects, and then I'm going to move on to the next projects. So I'm going to set the agents here, and I'm just going to continue on this one, someday, someday, and someday. And maybe this one is a bit more for priority, so we're going to put it as a next batch. If new projects were to come in, I just have my project manager take care of setting this field, and all of the rest will be set. And if you have a very complex team staffing, ClickUp will just help you out, speed that up. And it can even be better than you because it remembers all of your staff. And as it grows, just grow the rules and the agent will take care of it. So I've set things out here. As you can see, we have tasks, we have subtasks, they're planned. They pretty much all have a start date, a due date. Maybe you can fine tune this down the line, but I'm going to show you the magic here. I'm going to go to web design and to the workload view. And as you can see here, it's a bit messy, but I'm going to set things up the way I want. I'm going to show a time frame of weeks and just like zoom in a little bit to see a bit more. I'm going to save my view. And then instead of time, I'm going to use points. And as you know, I've set the capacity to 15 points. And now it's starting to look nice because I can see exactly each team member's capacity on the coming weeks. If I want to get a bit more screen real estate, I can just go into settings, show the subparent task names so that I see the client's website, and I can hide my weekends. That way, I just have a bit more screen real estate and can plan things better. And as you can see here, I have a clear view on who's over capacity. So you can see, for example, that Lucas here is over capacity, and it helps me make a decision. Either I realize that there's someone in the company that I need to train on whatever Lucas does, or I decide to hire someone to overlap Lucas because he's overloaded just handling 3 websites at the same time. Or I can just say, okay, Diane has 42% capacity and they're working on the real Robin. So I'm just going to let them help Lucas on design, for example, for a bunch of websites, and it just puts Lucas close to capacity. And then just maybe this task, decide to assign it to someone else that does initial design, maybe April, she's at 75%. So within a week, I can just dispatch tasks from a person to another, thanks to that workload view. And for example, for this person, they're definitely overloaded. So here we need to do something, maybe decide to outsource the quality insurance for some of those tasks. Okay, maybe Diane, but then I'm realizing, oh wait, Diane is starting to be overloaded. So maybe I can't do that many websites at the same time. There's a problem here. I need to change my workload because otherwise my team's not going to be able to finish work. And that gives you sanity, that gives you clarity. Just being able to see this, you're able to see that, for example, week 2 is going to be a mess. You need to bring a few things from week 2 to week 3, or from week 2 to week 1, because you have capacity here. And wait, doing so is super easy because I'm going to go to the batch now and see exactly who's doing what this week. I have clarity on everyone's assignments, and I can know exactly who's working on each website. And from there, I can say, okay, so maybe for the Batman project, we can bring in these to the now batch, which will obviously reflect here and change the dropdowns. And just changing the dropdowns here will affect the start date and due date of those tasks. They'll be rescheduled automatically thanks to our agents because I've put them in the now batch. And I can just do it with a drag and drop, but I can also decide to show the batch drop down here and say, okay, maybe on this website, I'm actually going to work now on this one and now on this one, and just like start to dispatch things. And maybe this one, which was planned next, will go later, and this one will just go later, and so on and so forth. And just having this clarity to know what's to do this week, what's to do next week, what's to do maybe 3 weeks later down the line, gives you peace of mind, and the workload view is being affected, tasks are being planned, things are being dispatched, and you can just like get more sanity and do your capacity planning, just switching back and forth between your batch and between this. And the AI agent will just take care of planning. So that's the magic of workload management in ClickUp. If you set your agents right, you have automated start date, due dates, assignments, and you have a clean workload view of your workload and how much effort you have to do. Maybe what I have to do now is just like a few drag and drops to make sure that next week's all right, and now I'm good to go. Everyone's in the yellow or the green. This doesn't mean this is set in stone, but at least I have a more accurate view on how we need to work on the next month. Hope that's clear for you. I hope that helps you out. And if you're interested about diving deeper in AI agents in ClickUp and how to leverage them for capacity planning and workload management, feel free to book a discovery call. I'll be happy to listen out on your story as a founder, how your team works, how you guys get together, and what are your pains, and see if it makes sense for us to work together. If you're interested, just book a discovery call. And if you want to discover my other products, they're also down in the description. And until then, I'll see you either in a call or in another video. Stay productive.